So today I'm going to be talking about the things that we learned from our last lecture, three of those things, and then two from the presentation, what it took from it. So as I like to do before, I kind of like to dive into both kind of in the same way because a lot of these things we learned in the presentation, and a lot of the things that he says are very correlated to the presentation. So it's really easy to just correlate the things each other, especially if they talk about very similar things. Especially if we talk about, I think a big deep dive into this week's is differential reinforcement, which a good example of that was on the lecture slides. It explained that this one girl, I think her name was Jules or whoever you want to call it, she would pick her hair, and so the teacher put a timer on her desk, and she would get reinforced, so she would get something every time, every 3 minutes that she wouldn't pick her hair. So that gave her be like, okay, I'm not doing this. Okay, I get something out of it. You know what I mean? So with that being said, that was something that is really, really cool. That was also correlated to the presentation, just like similar little things like that. The presentation, how they talk about the certain reinforcers, was really well. So that's a tied to with the presentation and the lecture. This is the way they handled that specifically and how they talked about it, because I think differential reinforcement, since there's a lot of like positive and negative and all this, so many just reinforcements period at the end of like words, it can be kind of difficult, but once you get the hang of it, it's really like easy to go to. So the presentation did a smooth incoming of that, but I really like the example as well from the lecture. So I think those go hand in hand. And also another thing from the lecture that I took away was just positive reinforcement. That's going to tie in as well with the presentation. So just different ways that you can, express positive reinforcement is just, give reinforcer, like the reinforcer as quickly as the behavior happens, just as the lecture explains, which is really good, because if we want it to continue to increase, we have to let it be known, like, hey, this is really good, like, here's this, please keep doing this, but yeah, that's also one. And there's also like how to delay the reinforcement. So like on the presentation, it just said to reduce the number of times the behavior is followed by reinforcers, to just kind of calm down a little bit. This can also tie into like ignoring. As I explained before, like I'm an RBT, so a lot of this stuff is like for errorless, not errorless, extinction, as he explained here. It's kind of like get rid of that fully, especially if it's a really unwanted behavior or something like that, that just it's gonna be a no-go. So yeah, I feel like the way that the teacher explained this in this slide, which is the slide this is how to administer positive reinforcement, which is really good because that correlates to the presentation and how good they presented about positive reinforcement, how much that helped the client, but also because that ties into the differential reinforcement and how they were able to navigate through those, because that also ties into positive reinforcement, because you're giving positive reinforcement once that that certain time frame is completed and they get the reinforcer, which is positive, so they can keep doing that behavior and getting rid of the other behavior. It's like a lot going on, a lot of reinforcing going on, which is great. So that just gives me one more to talk about the lecture, because the other two correlated with the presentation. So and I know he also explained about like natural reinforcers, which is really cool because you can do it naturalistically. So like for example, here's the example. I had this one client, and this specific client did not like when they were given a game and they would lose the game. So whenever that individual would go into behavior due to losing the game, I would completely ignore it, and I wouldn't give her any attention unless I knew she had a kind mouth, calm body, and just and was following directions. So when she had all that, I would then give her those reinforcements, be like, hey, you're doing such a good job, you're doing really good, like da 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 da. So then she knows that I'm only feeding into the good behavior rather than the negative behavior. Which is really cool. So, and that's like in a naturalistic way, because you can do that like playing a game or going outside. Like you could just implement all these types of learning attributes anywhere and everywhere. So, yeah. Sorry, this is my little go-to on the presentation and the lecture. I think they went really good hand in hand. Just had a lot of really good equal understandings of, especially of this week's lesson. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't mind my yawn, but yeah.